The reason I wanted to show this to you is because in week number 5 we're going to do React.js and good understanding of document and these elements. When you're working on React, this is going to come in very handy at that time. So you should know how to manipulate DOM using plain JavaScript when you're doing React development. So you should definitely be familiar with this. For now, we are going to take a quick diversion and we are going to talk about uh, how we moved from CSS to Bootstrap. When we were doing CSS, there was a lot of selectors that we had to write, and in combination of these selectors, the order, how we are overriding one property inside another selector or another class combination, it was it was working, but then it wasn't that effective. But then with Bootstrap, the quality of the code or the power that we got because of that framework, it was amazing. 80 to 90% of the work that we were gonna do, it was kind of already taken care of. And then we already had to modify the things which were in our scope, which were probably very specific to our application. So with that, we are going to apply a very similar concept to modifying um, to not write JavaScript code ourselves. Instead, write another app.jQuery.js. So over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment out this reference, and do I'm going to add reference to another framework which is jQuery. Now, going back to our old trick of not writing code ourselves but relying on the cheat sheet. Here is a cheat sheet of jQuery. Now, using jQuery, you can have multiple selectors. These are some basic selectors that you can put a star and it's going to select all the elements. And this is the filters, the nth child filter that we applied. It can probably fit in this category. You can have filters based on attribute. So if you want to select, say, a specific div which has an attribute of my class applied to it, you can select that here. You can select an A element which is pointing to, say, google.com, and then you can probably pair it up with regular expression as well if I'm correct. But these are some attribute selectors, right? There are CSS modifications that we can do. So notice how jQuery is providing .css. We're going to use that. When we were writing the JavaScript file ourselves, we had to rely on our memory and then try to recollect if font size is available, if style is available, if margin is available, and then it was kind of getting a lot of code. With CSS, with jQuery, it is going to become pretty straightforward. So let's come here. I'm going to add a reference to jQuery inside through this jQuery tree CDN link, and then the CDN is present here. I'm going to select the minified version. It has given me the script tag. Let's click on this copy button and add it inside our head section. Now I'm thinking if this is where it is supposed to be. So I can put the script tag here. The script tag is going to take a little longer. If these are big files, the page load time is going to increase. So if you want your page to get loaded and then you want to load the script, feel free to include it in the later part of the screen. So this is not going to load, it's not going to stop the UI from being drawn on the screen, and then it is going to go to the internet and start fetching these elements. With this added, now jQuery has a specific syntax. It is called $, right? So dollar points to the jQuery object through which we are going to interact with all the elements. Now over here, the way we were writing, okay, let me write the HTML equivalent of things. So we were writing document.query selector over here, and inside this we were typing different selectors, right? In jQuery, you're going to do it a little differently. You're going to type dollar and you're going to pass the selector right here. So let's go to HTML and pick up some ID element. It is my UL. I'm going to come to jQuery.cs and put hash my UL. And then for drawing border, we had selected this, that style dot probably border equal to 1px solid red is going to draw that border. What we have to do is our syntax is going to look a lot like the CSS file. So we're going to provide a property here, border, and we're going to provide the value here, like good 4 pixels solid red, and I'm going to draw I'm going to put a semicolon here. So this one line here is going to do everything that this function here was doing. Like go to document, do a query selector, take that object, inside that object you find out the style property and modify that. All of that is going to be taken care of by this thing. So we have not linked app query.js file till, so we're going to do that here. We don't need this file, so I'm going to comment it out, and over here I'm going to type script src equal to app.jquery.js, this file. Right now if we go to our browser window, notice that there's a nice red border drawn here, right, with just one line. So jQuery is going to save you a lot of typing. Let's go to our style sheet one more time, our cheat sheet. I'm going to close out of this, and let's see what other interesting options we have. There is something called as attribute prop height, dimension offset. There's something called as add class and remove class. I'm looking for event handlers. Let's see where they are. Right, so there's something called as event, and it is available over here. The click event is available over here. Um, there are events, so these are some of the form events. I'm looking for change event, text changed, modified, object event. Right, no worries. Let's go ahead with the simple click event, and over here we are going to once again use the same list item number 3, and for that we are going to pick up the complex selector that we had over here like this. Come to this spot and type dollar, and then the select goes here, and then you right click, and inside click you have to pass. If I click on this, it is going to open up jQuery documentation, and then inside this documentation, if you scroll down, you're going to see that there's a function that you have to pass, right? And this function is going to show an alert. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to copy it, and inside the click function, I'm going to say we handled the click event. And now when I click on random places, it doesn't work, but then item number 3, it is showing this link. So the way jQuery is helping us is the complex code that we were writing in these files, like go and add an event listener and then add a function to it and do activities inside them, and then finding those elements, it was kind of becoming very tricky. But with jQuery, the syntax kind of got very straightforward. In fact, let me show you another pseudo selector. So all the odd elements inside the list, they are going to get selected, and I'm going to remove this filter as well. So all the odd elements of that list is going to get selected, and they have this alert added. So if I now come to element number 1, probably an odd element, so I don't know which ones are odd. For this, it is not working. It is working for 1. It is not working for 2. It is working for 3. It's not working for 4. So it is starting with a count of 0. So this is element number 0. This is element number 1, and when I click here, it prints it because 0 is probably even. 1 is odd, 2 is even, 3 is odd, and we have associated this click handler with just one selector and with just one line. Make sense? Let's move on and look for something more effective. Alright, something that I want to show you. Alright, so there is this change event that we were struggling with the input button. I'm going to come here and associate it with this input text box. So inside our jQuery, now I'm going to do dollar, and I think it was hash my input, and then over here I'm going to type change. I don't have to write this function keyword as well. If I can show you the arrow syntax, I'm going to put empty parentheses, an arrow sign, and a pair of curly braces. This has the same effect as this particular line here. We have deleted function, we have left this, and we have drawn an arrow here. Everything else is just the same. Now if I say alert, input changed, and now if I come and modify and move out of this, my change event didn't fire once again. I don't know if it has an event associated with it. It does not. So let's see if our HTML still says that it has an ID. So there is no ID to it. Let's add an ID and call it my input. Now I'm hoping that it's going to have an event. So look at this now, that it has a change event. Now as I move out of this thing, it is kind of taking effect. Make sense? So all these events that you see here, they are available on, I think, all of the elements. Probably the select is more on the drop downs, or you can probably reserve it for that. So there's an element that they created, and then on the select event they are going to perform certain action, right? Now some of the jQuery syntax, they are extremely powerful. So way on the right I saw something called toggle. So hide, show, and toggle. I'm going to select this, and let's try to see what toggle does. So toggle, when you provide it a selector, it is going to have effect of hide and show, but then it is going to alternate and it is going to track it inside. Let's go ahead and implement it on the button that we have, or something else. Alright, so on the click of this button, we are going to toggle the presence of this particular drop down. So I'm going to associate the event here, but then we are going to control this input text box. So the button has an ID of my button. Let's go to jQuery, $hash my button dot toggle, and over here I'm going to use the arrow syntax, and over here I'm going to do, just one second. Okay, I don't want toggle here, I want click here. That was confusing me. And over here I'm going to do $hash my input, and then we're going to do toggle dot toggle. You see that how IntelliSense is not coming? there is a specific syntax. If under a triple comment you provide the name or reference to the JavaScript file, it kind of enables IntelliSense. So let's go ahead and I'm forgetting the syntax. I think you have to paste the URL here, or there is some syntax. I'm forgetting that, but then let me figure that out. Once you put it here, it is going to start supporting IntelliSense as well. Or you can always go to extension and say IntelliSense. So one of the extensions for JavaScript is going to help you probably with that as well. So I'm seeing a lot of PHP and other technologies. Let's figure out that extension. Okay. With this, if I come and click, let's see if there are events associated already. So it has a change event, and our button has the click event. Now if I click on this, notice that it toggles. It maintains the value inside it. So input changed, but it maintains the value inside it, and on the click of this with toggle we are doing hide and show pretty straightforward. There are other things as well that you can do, that on click of this, if I want to go ahead and create HTML elements, so let's create a new div inside our HTML. Down here I'm going to do dot row, and over here let's create a UL and give it an ID of dynamic list, and here I'm going to do say I'm going to leave this list empty, and just to make sure that this thing has some presence, we're going to do some styling around here. So my div class, let's see what we have in CSS. So div is going to have a border of black, which is good because UL is empty at the moment. It is not going to have any impact. But then let's go ahead and add li elements to this UL at runtime through jQuery. Now I don't know the syntax of this, so let's come back to our cheat sheet and see if we can create elements. Effects, traversing, manipulating, there is something selector. So DOM elements, you can get an element. I was looking for a way to add elements. jQuery docs add element. So there is a syntax called append. Let's see if append is present here. So DOM insertion is under manipulation section. So if I select this, it is going to ask me to create an element first. So append is going to append this thing. So using document.createElement, you can create an element. I'm going to do that over here like this and call it list item, and this becomes li, and in the dynamic list I'm going to say call append and put the li here. Now every time I click on the li element, let's see if I can add some text to it. Li dot text. I don't know if this is how you add it. Probably inner text something. I'm going to say hello, and if we come back here and start clicking on this, we are not getting anything. So let's look at this code once again. So there is my button, there's a click event. Just to see that our click event is in action, I'm going to do a console log, and over here I'm going to say button click. Once I come here and look at the console, my button click is working. So with each click, this count here is increasing. So I'm sure that this is getting executed. Then it is creating the li element as well. And because my selector is wrong, it is not working. I should have put a little hash sign here. And with that hash, we are going to select the ul element and the li is going to get appended. Because this was not coming out right, it wasn't appending anything. So with this, let's go ahead and add element. Our text is still not taking effect. So let's change that. I'm going to say dollar, and this time I'm going to put li here, and then I'm going to say there is an inner text. Let's go back to our cheat sheet, and cheat sheet is going to guide us. Inner width. Let's see how many text option we have. So we see that text is an option inside DOM manipulation. I'm going to use text and provide a value here of hello. Let's see if this helps, and there you go. So direct DOM manipulation. If you look at the traditional HTML code, or I'm sorry, JavaScript code, doing the same thing is going to take a lot of lines of code. With jQuery, we are able to do it within like 4 lines with great control on it. I can start getting very creative with it and start with 1, and over here I just have to append the value of x and also increase it. Now with each click, I'm going to get a different styled element. Make sense? So that is jQuery for you. Everything that you can do using HTML, jQuery will provide you simple APIs through selectors and modification of the attributes and DOM manipulation and event handling. The code that you're going to write is going to be a lot shorter, and the development speed is going to increase because once again you are relying on framework. Another disadvantage, if I can use that word, with classic HTML, classic JavaScript, is that it is specific to a browser. So when like this add event listener, this function is not the same as add event listener in probably Internet Explorer. So add event listener for Internet Explorer is a little different, and let's see what that is. So the Stack Overflow question, it is going to say that attach event. All right, and when you are writing simple JS file, it'll be extremely difficult for you to write JavaScript code that is compatible across browsers. So this was up to IE version 8, and starting IE version 9, they have changed it to add event listener. So the way you should be doing it is you figure out what version of browser you are running in, and if that element is defined. By the way, this is interesting code. So if you remember our 5 data types, integer, string, boolean, undefined. If this becomes undefined, undefined evaluates to false. And if it is false, it is not going to do this particular thing. Or if it is true, it is going to come and attach on an event. So you will have to write code which is going to nullify the effect of switching browsers for your JavaScript. And this is going to be a very daunting work. And thank you to jQuery that they have gone ahead and created this thing. Now with this syntax, dot change, dot click, it doesn't matter what platform you are running it on. Dot click is going to handle click of this particular selector in all the browsers with confidence. So that is another advantage of using jQuery. So with that, we are going to bring our session to conclusion for today, and